Alright, what's up YouTube? Undead Youth here, back again with another video for you guys. This one is actually something I'm going to title the Holy Priest 5-Man Survival Guide. The reason for me making this video is twofold really. The first is that I did have some trouble when I first started really spamming Mythic Dungeons on my Holy Priest, even though I destroy healing meters and things like LFRs, and even in some of our normal raids with her. When it came to doing mythics, I was just having a hard time still using a very similar talent and glyph setup and playing mindset as I would normally go to a raid with, to the point where it was just difficult to keep people alive. And then second is actually because I realized that during my Holy Priest guide, I really only talked about healing in your AoE chakra form. If you guys don't know what I'm referring to, please go watch that video. But I'm referring to healing in chakra state of Sanctuary, which buffs your AoE healing, which is your primary raid healing utility. And I talked a lot about that rotation and not a lot about Serenity, if at all, and not talking about that in your single target slash 5-man healing uh, stance, it really does a disservice to the class. So I decided that I wanted to kind of revisit that without having to create an entirely new guide. So here is the, I guess, addition to that guide. Now, a little bit of backstory or reason why I feel like Holy Priests have a problem that is not just perceived by me but other players as well, healing Mythic 5-mans and challenge modes. And it stems from a few things. The biggest one really being that we just lack a lot of the strong single target instant cast heals that a lot of the other classes have. And before a lot of you just attack me and say you're so ill-informed, we have amazing things like Holy Word Serenity. We have amazing things like Flash of Light and what am I trying to say? And Surge of Light, or Flash Heal and Surge of Light. Sure, we have all those things, but you could hardly compare those to things like Clear Casting, or things like Nature Swiftness plus Healing Touch, or really any sort of single target heal that a shaman can put out on a low health ally. Because they are so much more effective at bringing people back up than we are. So, like, druids have like Swift Mend, which can be buffed by things like taking the talent Rampant Growth. Like I said, Shaman, their mastery actually just benefits them passively from healing lower health allies, which is so strong in a 5-man environment when there's not a lot of absorbs to curb the amount of damage people actually appear to be taking to their health pool. Whereas Holy Priests, they're, especially in a raid, they're that consistent flow of healing. They're very, very consistent. They use a lot of their instant cast smaller heals to reduce the cast time or reduce the cooldown time on their circle of healing, which means they can flood out even more heals, which is very, very nice and very, very synergistic, but it doesn't translate very well into a 5-man environment if you decide to try to heal like that, because HPS doesn't matter nearly as much as just keeping people alive. And when you start getting into Mythic 5-mans and challenge modes, things like dots start to hurt, mechanics start to hurt, and they will kill people if you don't bring them back up quick enough. A primary example is like the Pyromancers in Auchindoun. Something that, I mean, in like a heroic wouldn't matter, but in a 5-man, they can easily chunk people's health to the point where almost nobody, other than a tank, and even then, can take 2 of those hits without dying. And if you can't heal them back up to full, or snap some sort of like damage reduction like an Iron Bark or something like that on them, then they're really going to be in trouble. And if you start losing people, then they stay alive longer, and then they kill more people, and it just snowballs from there. So that's why I feel like Holy Priests struggle, because yes, Serenity is a good spell, but it's not especially powerful when you compare it to some of the other healing spells that are out there that are used in emergency situations, because it's really not supposed to be at the end of the day. So I kind of wanted to create this video kind of showing my findings on what I feel like is the best way to tackle mythics, and is with a real complete overhaul of glyphs, talents, and perspective on the Holy Priest. So what you really want to start off with is looking at your talents. Normally, I would say take Words of Mending as your level 100 talent almost exclusively, because it's just a passive buff to your healing. However, in a Mythic 5-man, you can imagine that that talent does not really help us out a lot because it doesn't actually lend itself to helping people stay alive. It's just a nice buff to your HPS. It takes 10 spells in order to actually do anything, and then it takes another spell to land the Prayer of Healing on the target, and then it takes another hit for that Prayer of Mending to then bounce off and potentially heal someone else. So, you can see, like, Words of Mending is not really going to be all that beneficial for you in that 5-man environment. However, I wholeheartedly believe that Saving Grace is the talent that you want to take in this scenario. And a lot of people are like, whoa, Saving Grace sucks. Like, it sucks. And you're right, it kind of does. It's an incredibly powerful instant heal, but it has a definite drawback of applying a healing done debuff to you, which stacks up to 6 times, and obviously you don't want to let it get that far, but it is a mechanism that we can use at a single target that does a lot of things for us, and that will eventually heal people up to full, especially on DPS, but even on tanks it does a sizable chunk of healing, and it also synergizes very well with our chakra state, which we're going to be in, which is not Sanctuary but Serenity. So I recommend taking Saving Grace. I would still go with Twist of Fate as your performance enhancing talent because people tend to drop below 35% fairly often in 5-mans, though not necessarily as reliably as in a lot of Hellfire and Citadel encounters right now. But like I said, things like the Pyromancers blowing people up, tanks just taking a lot of damage from actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. You yourself can take a lot of damage while you're out healing other people. It happens pretty regularly that you will be able to keep Twist of Fate up at least 50% of the time, which is probably good. But at the same time, Power Infusion gets a serious look in because it's on-demand performance enhancement. You can kind of see in the last fight that I was doing, which was the mythic, I forget the guy's name, but the first boss in Bloodmaw Slagmines, it starts off with a very, very slow fight, and it's very, very easy to heal, but then it gets extremely hectic towards the end there. So I really would have liked to have had something like Power Infusion there. I was able to survive and no one died, and that was great. But something like Power Infusion definitely would have helped that out. Also, though, Twist of Fate was definitely procced during that fight, so it's kind of hard to balance the two. Both of them are very good choices, though. Other than that, I would still go with Surge of Light as your talent for mana conservation, or however you want to word that tier. The reason being is because it gives us exactly what we want. Instant cast single target heals. Fairly reliably. That's why I also take Divine Star to help proc that. It's a little easier to keep track of everyone and heal them, but I mean, if people are spread out, people are spread out. I really haven't found anything too much better than Divine Star, though. You could try Cascade. I really wouldn't go with Halo because people are not really going to be spread far enough for it to make too much of a difference. I just like Divine Star as just the traditional Surge of Light enabler, and Surge of Light is awesome for the content that we're going to be doing. It's exactly what we need. So I picked Divine Star, but Cascade might work for you. I use Cascade on my Discipline Priest a lot, so Moving on from talents, let's talk about what glyphs you're going to need, because your glyphs change a little bit. Most notably, there is one glyph that I 100% always recommend that you take when raiding as a Holy Priest, and it's Glyph of Circle of Healing. Circle of Healing will heal an additional target. However, that actually means literally jack shit, like actual shit, in a 5-man environment. So we don't need that glyph. What I would suggest you take instead of that, or at least in some form, or in some way, you need to take Glyph of Binding Heal. What Glyph of Binding Heal does is it means that your Binding Heal will apply an additional heal to another target via Smart Heal. In addition to the heal that goes on you, in addition to the heal that goes on your target, it also finds another person to heal. Which means, in a 5-man environment, that heals half of your fucking group, which is actually incredibly efficient. It's not a huge heal. It's kind of like a smaller cast-timed Circle of Healing, but Binding Heal stacks Serendipity, which is important for us, because if we do have to cast Heal, and if we do have to cast Prayer of Healing, we definitely want to have 2 Serendipity stacks. That doesn't change from rating at all. So that's why Glyph of Binding Heal is awesome. And like I said, I mean, it's an efficient heal that heals half your group at that point in time. Why wouldn't you use it? So I like Glyph of Binding Heal. I still pick Glyph of Renew. I don't care so much for Glyph of Deep Wells. You might want to take actually Glyph of Power Word Shield because you'll no longer be running with a Discipline Priest, and Power Word Shield is then again an instant cast that provides a buffer to your target's health. If you take in Body and Soul, you're going to be casting it anyway for the movement speed increase, and then finally, it also will apply a small heal if you glyph it. And you can see right here, Saving Grace literally saved the day off of the video. I love Saving Grace so much. I was able to pull that back out, and it was awesome. Excuse me. One person did die, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, so I would personally take probably Glyph of Renew, Glyph of Binding Heal, and then maybe Glyph of Power Word Shield, because usually in a 5-man you're not always going to have Light Well down when people are below 50%. And because that happens even on Trash, so like it might happen on a boss and that's great, but you probably still won't need the extra charges with a smaller group. So that's why I don't really like Glyph of Deep Wells too much. Now, going on with your actual playstyle and what you should be doing on the mindset that you should have when healing as a Holy Priest. Number one, first and foremost, you are not going to heal in Chakra form Sanctity anymore. You're going to be using Chakra State of Serenity. And what this does is your single target heals will actually refresh the duration of Renew on your target, which means it's an efficient way to keep up your blanket filler heal. And it will just passively buff your healing, again, kind of like Words of Mending does. And so it saves us mana by having to not cast Renew, and saves us global cooldowns, which are so necessary when we have so many cast time spells. It saves us all that time to just be able to heal people. So definitely want to stick in this chakra form. It also transforms Chastise into Serenity. And what Serenity does is a single target, instant cast heal. And if you haven't guessed, I'm kind of a fan of those in this type of an environment. So you definitely want to go with that. Also, it increases your crit chance for your direct heals on that target for the next few seconds by placing a buff on them, which is just great because it means that you can heal them up very quickly. So the ideal situation is to be able to heal up your target, to keep Renew going on your target by casting Serenity. This buffs them in case they are to take damage, and it just means that you can keep up your Renew without having to use any cast time spells, which frees you up for doing different things. So that's kind of like the main bare bones thing that you should be trying to do, at least on your tank in your group, is to keep Renew ticking, preferably by using Serenity, but it's okay to save Serenity for moments of big damage, and if not Serenity, then just heal. You can also refresh Renew by using Flash Heal if you have to, which happens a lot with Surge of Light procs, and also with Binding Heal, and also with Saving Grace, which is another reason why, again, I recommend taking the Glyph of Binding Heal and the talent Saving Grace. It all synergizes very well. So, if damage starts to ramp up, especially on more than one target, you're definitely going to want to include Prayer of Mending and Circle of Healing to your rotation. They're definitely passive, strong buffs. Like, Circle of Healing is not the overall core spell of your playstyle like it is when you're raiding, but it's still a very good spell. They'll pretty much heal the splash damage done to your entire group. It's a lot more efficient than having to use Prayer of Healing, even though you do sometimes have to use Prayer of Healing. Most of the time you can incrementally, yes, I think that's right, heal up the group using Circle of Healing over time, because a lot of the damage doesn't have to be lethal. In between using Circle of Healing, though, try to use Binding Heal whenever it won't overheal on you or your target. The third heal is a smart heal, so it should be very efficient. You shouldn't have to worry about that. But just try to make it so that that doesn't at least overheal on you. Because as long as you're Binding Heal on the tank, they're probably going to be taking some damage. You really have to make sure that you've taken some damage so it doesn't overheal. And then the third heal should go off and heal someone, assuming, of course, that they've taken damage, right? Use Flash Heal whenever necessary. But also, of course, keep in mind that you're going to have Surge of Light proccing from Divine Star, which you should also be using on cooldown. There's no reason to save. Divine Star doesn't do a ton of healing in and of itself, so you should pretty much just be using it to generate Surge of Light stacks. Obviously not using it when you have 2. I really wouldn't recommend using it if you have 1, because it can very easily give you 2 charges if you're not careful that might go to waste. So definitely be using that pretty much on cooldown just to generate those stacks, because those are going to do two things for you. Number one, they're going to help you keep renews up a lot easier. Number two, they're going to let you build serendipity stacks, and you're going to build serendipity through your Surge of Light procs and your binding heals. And what they're going to do is give you faster prayer of healing. So if you do have to use prayer of healing, it's not going to take for fucking ever to do. You have to understand that prayer of healing in a raid environment is not the strongest heal. Not the strongest AoE heal by any stretch of the imagination, compared to something like Wild Growth or Chain Heal, and it's not even in the same league. But in a 5-man, it's pretty effective because it will heal an entire group. And guess what? There's only 5 people in your 5-man, so it's going to be quite strong in your 5-man. And you kind of want to reduce the perceived amount of downtime that you're going to have by having hard cast that spell. Like I said, keep Prayer Mending pretty much going on cooldown. That's just going to provide a passive sort of buffer of health for everyone. Can't go wrong there. Key spells that you want to have bound, that you should have had bound anyway, but if you didn't, you definitely want to, is going to be things like Guardian Spirit. I don't know why that should be said, but it should be. Guardian Spirit is great, and don't just use it on your tank. Obviously, your tank is the one you kind of want to hold out for, but if somebody else needs Guardian Spirit because they'll die, that's what you need to do. It is an amazing life-saving tool that you should be glad that you have, and you need to use it. Because again, in a 5-man, it really just matters that everyone stays alive, because you're effectively, if even one DPS dies, you're cutting the DPS in your group in like, what, a third? So you don't want to do that, because things take longer to die, and then way more things potentially go wrong. So use Guardian Spirit whenever you need to, on whomever you need to. Then use Desperate Prayer on yourself, because it is your self-heal. You want to use that before you start using things like Saving Grace on yourself, giving yourself a healing debuff. And then you also want to use Fade, because obviously that's going to reduce the aggro. When there's only 5 people in a group, you're a lot more likely to get aggro just from doing random stuff. You want to make a lot of use out of Dispel and Mass Dispel. These are spells I still feel like don't get a lot of look in, but they save you so much damage over the course of a fight. It's hard to kind of fit them in when damage is coming out and dots are going out on people, but you have to try, because it will save you so many casts, so many valuable casts, because you like having to use things like Serenity and even Saving Grace to heal people up and then taking dot damage is a huge detriment to you, because it puts Serenity on cooldown and it might potentially give you like a healing debuff. And you don't want to do that when you could have just purified it. Not only that, Mass Dispel has a giant fucking area. You actually see me use it. I think you saw me use it on the second boss in this instance, I think. And you could see the giant area in which it covered. It can almost always get everyone, even the ranged in your group, and just magically dispel them. So that's awesome. You want to use Power Word Shield. If you take a Body and Soul, you're going to be used to this already. However, even if not, you want to use it pretty much on cooldown, because why not? It's an instant cast, it doesn't cost a lot of mana, and it provides a buffer to your target's health, at the very least if you haven't cliffed it. Finally, if you did decide to take Saving Grace as your 100 talent, you want to make sure you use it as a last-ditch effort, as exactly what it's intended to be, Saving Grace. You want to make sure that you used as many of your healing spells as you can before you have to use Saving Grace. So for instance, make sure that you've used your Serenity, make sure you've used your Circle of Healing, your Divine Star, your heals, like anything, even your Binding heals. Just make sure that you've used those heals. If you have Surge of Light procs, make sure you use them first before you use Saving Grace. If your target's gonna die before you think you're gonna be able to get out another Flash of Light, or Flash of Light's not gonna be big enough to heal them for whatever reason, that's when you use Saving Grace. And it happens a lot more than you would think that it would. But the reason why you want to try to use Saving Grace as the last-ditch effort is mostly because it applies a healing done debuff to you, which means that you want to get all of your heals out of the way before you use it, because the debuff itself doesn't last too long. So you want everything else kind of on cooldown before you use that spell. Other than that, make sure that you're dropping your light well. I usually do it on boss fights because it has such a long cooldown. Divine Hymn is Divine Hymn. Use it when everyone's dying. And you're pretty much going to have a good time. That's kind of all that I really have to say about five-man healing and the Holy Priest. It's more of a changing of everything, really. Changing your glyphs, your talents, and most importantly, your mindset. You really just have to be focused on keeping people alive at all costs, rather than doing what we're really good at, which is just nice spread healing. If you guys have any questions about Holy Priest, you guys want to see any more videos, one other video that I'm going to make in regards to the Holy Priest is actually a kind of a good and bad and the ugly video like I did with the Guardian Druid, which actually seems to be a lot more popular than I ever thought it would be. I thought honestly no one would watch that video. But people seem to actually like it and agree with me, which is weird because when I made my Guardian Druid guide, everyone was like, what are you talking about? So I'm going to probably do that on the Holy Priest as well because there are obviously things that I want to see changed in Legion, obviously things that will be changed in Legion. So look out for that. If you guys have any other ideas for videos that you want to see, please tell me. Please, if you like the video, hit the like button, comment, tell me what you like, what you didn't like, and please subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, which helps me, to make more videos and put more time into these things, which I really do like doing. So please subscribe. It shows me that you guys really like the content. Other than that, I'm going to let this clip run. So I'm going to go ahead and see you guys later, but thank you so much for watching.